Welcome to day 6 of our 30 days of PM challenge. Today, we're looking at product discovery and how you start building a solution and discover potential ways to move forward. And this is our day 6 of day 30 days of PM challenge, courtesy of crew work. And I'm here trying to explore and learn more things about product management and working as a product manager during my day job. And here is an attempt to essentially walk through this challenge, learn about more things on the product management side, and share my insights through this live stream. So we stream every day on the Nonsense channel. You can also follow us on Twitter and YouTube to get these daily live streams and learn and explore things about product management. So today the topic of discussion here is product discovery and how you can validate things before building them. As a quick anecdote, product discovery comes very early in the product building phase or the product management phase. If, for example, you have come across an insight or you have received multiple requests for a certain feature that has come to you, using the previous 5 days of content and knowledge, you always as a start as to always think about the problem, figure out the root cause of the problem using the 5 eyes framework, and coming to uh, from the surface level problem to the actual problem that is being faced, and then look at potential problems, right? So now how do you proceed from here and discover ways of actually achieving or solving a problem? So this post today has a very important image that probably can help us explain the whole scenario and the whole journey of what's product discovery. But they've also given us notes on what product discovery is and explained it through all the cycles. But yeah, I'll make an attempt to use the references here and also share a few resources that I found that help in the product discovery journey. Product discovery is never ending. It sort of is not just part of once you are in the problem phase. Once you have delivered, you also have the product discovery kicking in, where it is always back of the mind of a PM to get insights and get opinions and feedback from customers and users for a particular feature or a particular segment that has been developed and delivered, and iterate on that and improving. So it's always going, and it's always a cyclic process, always keeps growing, and you get feedback, you iterate on that feedback, and the loop goes on and on. There is another great resource on the internet called Teresa. She's a product coach and has written a book recently on product discovery and how continuous product discovery helps. And she also talks about this in a podcast with Lenny, who talks with product managers and other growth leaders in the segment, and talk to them and interview them for insights on the product management space. So I have a short clip from that podcast. Before jumping into the diagram here and explaining, I'll probably show that resource and how they explain the product the discovery phase in general.
Everything in our backlog is a bet. Everything, whether we do discovery or not, everything is a bet. Discovery is helping us make a better bet. Now, sometimes in our organizations, we need to do a lot of discovery and make as good of a bet as we can. But there's other times we can make a risky bet. Like there's times in business where it makes sense to make a risky bet. If you work somewhere where all of your bets have been risky because you're doing zero discovery, the best way to kill any appetite for discovery is to say, let's stop making bets until we discover. No, don't do that. Keep making bets. In parallel, start doing some discovery so that eventually those bets get better. And I think the reason why people make this mistake is they think about it as phases. First, I discover and then I deliver. No, you're always delivering and you're always discovering. And the more you build this discovery habit, the better those bets are going to get with time. So it's not that you do one first and then the other. It's you're always doing both. And the benefit of always doing both is with time you make better bets.
So yeah, I think Terry very well explains how, as a product manager, you are always making bets or taking bets on a certain feature, because a lot of the times you don't have the time to even make decisions, right? Or do the thorough research you want to do. It's always on the fly. Things are moving here and there, and you have to prioritize things to be delivered as soon as possible, because you want the engineering team to always be busy and occupied with features and things to roll out and work on. and part of that is having making these bets all the time. It's not necessary you have to keep making these bets even though you don't have the time or the bandwidth to explore potential options, but you also have to be discovering along the sense at the same time and gathering insights of things that you already know about, for example a bet, and how that's going to pan out, and how after it is being delivered what are the ways to improve it from there on. So this continuous discovery always keeps growing. But in short, product discovery is a process, as mentioned here in this article, that helps refine ideas by deeply understanding the problem and the best way to deliver the solutions for them, so that any similar scenario for a user who is coming from a different background can also find the solution through the feature or product that you have delivered to them. So it is not it helps a good product solution or a product feature can solve multiple problems from multiple scenarios through its framework of approach of how the solution is being delivered. So for example, if you have the ability to do bulk updates to an operation, you can do it manually through the UI, clicking each, selecting all the items you want to bulk update, or use an automation that filters or groups things together that meet a certain criteria and then bulk updates them. So you can do it both ways, the UI way or making it more dynamic, but the dynamic approach is more scalable, and then you figure out the odds of which does better in each scenario and go from there and build the solution. So that is how product discovery and product solutions come into play. But in general, it helps you to make better decisions from when you are at the problem phase and trying to figure out options of ways to deliver the solution for that specific problem. But yeah, if we expand on this image, to begin with, you have an ideas backlog. You have multiple feedback requests coming in from multiple customers, and then you as the product management team or the discovery team are segregating and grouping them together into certain buckets or categories. From there, you think of an approach to solve for it, right? You probably make a PRD or like a first draft solution of ways you think that potentially might solve. You probably have a list of options of achieving it and their eventual drawbacks. You then, if it requires UX or if it's straightforward where you can build up a quick dirty mockup using balsamic or whimsical, you do that and try to get some validation from the users directly. And once you get some feedback, you are also, because you don't want to spend a lot of time in the validation and feedback phase in the product discovery, you also are making small bets here like Teresa mentioned, and then taking those bets and iterating them through and putting a smaller piece into the dev backlog here. And from there you then cycle it through and deliver the product through the engineering teams, and once the value is delivered, the loop, as you see, comes back to the users eventually. When you are even discovering things and validating them with the customers directly, you get certain ideas that you can probably put into your phase 2 of an approach or solution that you are delivering. Or if it's possible that your developer backlog and delivery team timelines and also the discovery phase are happening at parallel, you can introduce the ideas provided by your customers and put them add those into the current dev backlog for the delivery team to build on, right? And from there you iterate and deliver the product, whatever feedback, positive or negative, you take it from there. It has to be less negative because as part of the discovery cycle you have already validated solutions and options. So unless the development has not been done to the mark or is not really delivered as to what was expected in the first place, you might get negative feedback. But otherwise you will get feedback as to how the team has done or has delivered the product or a specific section or feature of the platform, and then iterate onto making it available across other areas that have similar problems that are being faced, or a better way to do in an X feature or a Y part of the platform or the product, right? So this is how product discovery works. The idea backlog is essentially part comes from multiple places. The backlog comes from customer requests primarily, because there are commits to meet, there are deadlines to meet, and probably your customer is blocked because a certain workflow is not achievable unless this part of the product feature or product is delivered, or an additional enhancement has been made. That is one way of finding out or building this idea backlog. You have your own competitive analysis and feedback from the field team and the business team, which are available to you. You also have inputs from your strategic vision or from your ELT or extended leadership team, who has certain goals to achieve, for example for a financial year or for a specific quarter to focus on, because these strategic visions or strategic ideas help you, for example, gain a market share or one up of potential customer, where you can use a strategic vision or the idea through the strategic vision as, for example, leverage when dealing with multiple competitors who are pitching their solutions to the same customer. And because of this strategic vision and your investment in delivering a feature that aligns to it, gives you an upper hand in terms of getting the eventual customer and onboarding them into your organization and making them use the platform. So this is how it becomes. You're in the idea backlog phase. There are multiple times and multiple phases you will iterate. You will probably prioritize things further along the route because of some changes that you've seen in the market, or some feature has been requested multiple times by multiple customers, not just one, and you now feel like you have like a critical mass, because unless you deliver this first, a lot of customers might be stuck in their workflows. So the within the idea backlogs and the discovery phase as well, there are multiple times you prioritize things up, prioritize them down, or prioritize them lower on your list and take them further. And that is where product roadmap also comes into play, right? A product roadmap is also in essence a part of your ideas backlog, where you have multiple segments or parts of the platform delivered and built to solve for a specific scenario and a problem. And so you to have some part of the user feedback and user workflow items to be delivered, you probably have to deprioritize or move some items out of your roadmap that are lower priority and move them into the next phase of your product roadmap. So these are things and opportunities that you always have to keep looking at and iterating through your product discovery and product cycling. But in essence, product discovery is done at the moment where the solution is still not built. You are still in the finalizing stages of what needs to be built and how it works. There are iterations within the product team where, for example, for a particular, let's say, notification system you want to build within as part of your platform, there are multiple areas a notification affects. It can be manual processes, things that have gone down, things that have not processed properly, or you have received like a message in the, or you have like a new follower or new subscriber or things like that. All these are notifications at the end of the day. And how do you want to group them? Do you want to make them individual? Who gets to view the notification? If you have multiple users part of like a tenant, for example, or a platform, or for example a YouTube channel being managed by multiple stakeholders, does only the admin get to see the notification, or everyone else? If everyone else, who gets to mark a particular notification as read? Can Should we allow the option to mark a particular alert or notification as unread, or should we just, if any one user looks at the notification, we should mark it as read or resolved? So there are multiple scenarios, multiple things. I just gave an example of the alerting framework or notification framework. But product discovery essentially is that you look at other platforms, how they have done or built a specific feature. If there are docs publicly available on your competitor's product, you look at that and how the implementation for that has been done. So there are always these opportunities for you to look at, and this is where the product discovery phase comes in. And it's not necessarily only a part of when the ideas have idea backlog and idea, I mean, requirement phase is into process or into place, but you also are iterating it through the loop. Once you have delivered it, you get some feedback, you again iterate on it, build on it, and probably make the product mature in the process of doing all of that. So this is how product discovery works in general. And here, this there are examples of here. And what are the key steps? First is power up the customer and understanding the needs of the customer and clearly defining the requirements for them. Then you look at making sure you are working on the problem at hand, not some arbitrary metric. For, like in the stream yesterday, we were looking at tagging for Google Photos. Customers are asking for tagging photos, but do you really want them to give the ability to tag each and every image, because no one has the time to tag all of their images? A probably better solution would be to auto tag these using machine learning or whatever way you could, to figure out what is part of the image. Is it like a human, is it landscape, or is it like a geography, a specific geography? Are there mountains in the images? Probably tag them based on that. What are the faces in the images? Probably tag on the person and automatically tag these, right? So in terms of, the problem was to tag, but eventually the root cause we identified was that user were looking for organizing images better. And to do that, instead of giving a manual ability to tag, you could do that, but the best way would be to start with automatically the system itself tagging these to make lives easier of customers. So these are things that you do in the product discovery and product requirement phase for the developers and the engineering to take it into their backlog and then deliver it to the customer. So yeah, moving to the next step, making sure you are actually working on the problem. Like we told, figuring out the identified problem you should tackle first and prioritize that, because there will always be multiple options, multiple things for you to look at. You will have like 10 items, but you can only accompany 2 out of them because of bandwidth constraints and how the developer backlog is at the moment. And you have to make tough choices and tell no to other things and prioritize one over the other. So yeah, this is also part of the product discovery phase. And once you isolate specific user problem, it reframe and build them in phases, instead of building like one requirement that takes a month to deliver from start to finish. Instead, cut them or piece them into multiple phases. And once like a phase 1 is delivered, you get some feedback, then focus on phase 2, phase 3, and then iterate and keep giving incremental value to the customer, where in the process you're, after every phase is delivered, you have opportunity to seek feedback from customers and validate what has been built, and then probably iterate on next features from there on. So this is how it would be. And the last step is, once you're testing, determine are the solution is actually capable. If this is a no, after all, even all the first 6 steps you have followed, it's probably job not well done, and to end with, right? So this is how product discovery works. I've shared resources with about Teresa. She also has this fantastic image, in a sense, which talks about continuous discovery and how that works. So we can look at that, where here, I mean, I'm just starting from left to right, we'll go in that order. But product teams conduct weekly customer interviews. You are part of these customer calls. For example, you are building something, a new segment, or trying to revamp a certain part of the platform. You talk to customers and look at data. Who is actually using this? How valuable is it to them in its current state? Talk to them about that. Ask them for what they would like. And there are multiple ways to ask customers these questions. And I have like a very good document which talks about how you should interview your users, right? How you should ask them questions. And so the first is, if you are trying to build a new platform or a new segment or a new enhancement to a certain section of the platform, for a specific customer, ask them to walk them through their workflow, right? How do they begin? What part of their workflow is having problems and what they would like for us to address? So things like these, and asking these sort of questions on a continuous these discovery calls helps. And probably this resource is one of the best resources, which talks about asking concrete examples. How do they feel if a certain thing is delivered, if it is not, if we prioritize it later, and map words with action. So there are these templates and questions for you to ask, which I will link within the Twitter account and also in the YouTube description of this video. But yeah, coming back to the image, you discover opportunities, you look at these opportunities and tie them back to outcomes by talking to your product leads and product teams, and negotiate what is like the optimum output you would want to receive for things to be delivered, and then take it from there. You then tie these opportunities to outcomes. You have multiple opportunities, you cycle through them, you build solutions for each of these opportunities, and then iterate and test, did the solution actually address the problem? And then product teams can look at these and build prototypes and build all of these, combine them into a solution, and you generate multiple solutions and pick and choose which works best for a customer or a scenario. So this is a process of continuous discovery. You are always iterating, improving, building mockups, gathering feedback, tying and mapping these things together, which is much more dynamic than dynamic as it sounds. And uh, and this is just one of the pieces that as a PM you have to do on a day-to-day basis. There are other things. Discovering is one part of the problem. Figuring out the solution is other important thing that takes a lot of time. Talking to these multiple stakeholders, managing expectations, dealing with multiple conflicts during the day, talking to multiple teams who are actually in the process, right? It wouldn't necessarily, there will be multiple things happening at the same time. You might be working on some items that are part of a sprint being delivered, while at the same time you are also planning ahead for future sprints at the same time, and figuring out the requirements for those, but also addressing problems that are in the current sprint, that uh, like engineering is blocked on or a customer is asking for an update. So the environment or a day-to-day job is very dynamic for a PM, and that is the nature of the job. But yeah, if you like all of these problem solvings, it gives you great opportunities to uh, do context switching at a very large level, and you are not just focused on a single problem or a single subsection or part of the platform. You actually have multiple layers of impact and multiple places where you can share feedback and deliver a lot of impact to your users and customers. So yeah, these are a few resources on the types of questions you can ask to customers during your product discovery calls. You also have this image which we already looked at, and here is where you define, and the problem discovery phase, product discovery phase actually happens, where you are defining and defining and looking at ways to define a solution for a particular challenge or problem a customer is facing. But yeah, it always keeps going. It's not necessarily just at the defining phase, but also once it delivers, it comes back to discovering what has been the feedback from there and iterating thereon. So yeah, I think this more or less covers it. You can look at the book and also this website called Product Talk. This is from Teresa, and she talks about discovery habits and what is product discovery, where product discovery is essentially deciding what to build and how to build, and why to build it. Essentially you begin with the why, as we looked at it yesterday, and once the why is clear, you look at what to build and how to build it in the product discovery phase, and once it's delivered, you are building it. After the build has been complete, you also come back again to the discovery phase and get feedback and iterate and keep going and mature your product along the process. So yeah, these are a few resources from Teresa, her book, and this website which you can look at, and a few questions which will help you along the way to build better products by asking the right questions to your customers. Because just asking them, do you want X or Y, the answer will always be yes from a customer, and they are probably just narrowed on, focused on their own problem statement or workflow that they are trying to solve for, right? But you as a product manager have to also take into account all the other scenarios and other customers who are also probably can leverage the workflow or can help improve their process through a certain feature that is part of a workflow for X customer, but make it available and make the impact to also be noticeable across all the other X plus Y plus Z customers within your organization. So that's how it goes. This has been product discovery, and how continuous iteration and development helps in growing and deciding the problem that you want to solve for, building the requirements to solve the problem, and iterating it once it's built. So yeah, I think that covers it for today, and we'll look at what we have in store for day 7 and take it from there. But yeah, thanks for joining. See you soon.